It's the pre-dawn quiet of February 28, 2026. At 6 a.m. sharp, Israeli fighter jets loaded up with high-precision missiles just sliced through the sky. They have a very clear mission, and their destination is the heart of their oldest adversary, Iran.
And where are they heading? To a heavily fortified government building right in central Tehran. Now, intelligence, which has been gathered for months, suggests that Iran's entire senior leadership is there, all gathered for a super-critical meeting. But among all those targets, there's one person who is the ultimate prize.
And that prize is Ayatollah Ali Khamenei, who's been Iran's supreme leader for more than 30 years. Just 2 hours and 5 minutes after those jets took off, the missiles hit their mark. And you have to understand, this wasn't just an attack. This was a move designed to basically cripple the entire Iranian state.
What we're talking about here is a decapitation strike. The goal wasn't just to hit a building, but to surgically remove the whole command and control structure of the Islamic Republic in one single, overwhelming blow.
And when you look at the details, they're chillingly precise. It happened at 9:40 a.m. Tehran time, a really bold daylight attack. 30 bombs all in one concentrated strike. Khamenei was killed, along with his daughter, son-in-law, and grandson. All told, 30 of Iran's most senior officials were eliminated in less than a minute. Just a devastating blow.
Now, an attack of this magnitude, it doesn't just happen in a vacuum, right? It's really the culmination of over 4 decades of hostility. So the question is, how did things get to this breaking point?
Well, the seeds for all this were really planted way back in 1979 with the Iranian Revolution that tossed out a US-backed ruler. Khamenei took power in '89, and he kept that anti-Western stance going. Tensions just shot through the roof in 2002 when Iran's secret nuclear program was exposed. That led to years of diplomacy, which resulted in the 2015 nuclear deal. But the real turning point came in 2018, when the US just walked away from that deal, basically reigniting the path to open war.
You know, back in 2015, the vibe was one of, well, cautious optimism. The whole point of the nuclear deal, as President Obama put it, was pretty clear. Just diplomatically block Iran from ever getting a nuclear weapon using international oversight.
And then, bam, just 3 years later, a complete 180. President Trump pulled the US out, called the deal horrible, and slapped sanctions back on. That single move just dramatically ramped up the tension and put the two countries right back on a collision course. And that collision really came to a head in 2025. You had the US and Israel launching strikes on Iranian nuclear sites. At the exact same time, Iran's economy was in a total freefall, which sparked huge protests. The regime's response was just brutal. A full internet blackout, thousands killed, and something like 50,000 people arrested. The whole country was basically a powder keg, just waiting for a spark.
Which brings us right back to the attack itself. I mean, this was not a spontaneous thing. It was a meticulously planned joint operation that was months and months in the making.
And get this, the operation had 2 different code names, one for each partner. For the United States, it was called Epic Fury. For Israel, it was Roaring Lion. This thing was coordinated from the very, very beginning.
The whole attack unfolded in 3 very precise ways. First, you had the leadership strike in Tehran. Immediately after that, a second wave of Israeli jets just systematically took apart Iran's air defenses. Then came the third and final wave, a massive force of 200 jets, this time with the US joining in, to completely obliterate missile sites all across the country.
So, the billion-dollar question, right? How did they know exactly where and when to strike? Well, the answer is intelligence. Apparently, the CIA tracked Khamenei for months, learning his every move. They knew about this high-level meeting and used real-time communication intercepts to confirm he was there. And his fatal mistake? After months of hiding out in deep bunkers, he was above ground for this meeting, which presented this fleeting opportunity that they just couldn't miss.
So with its leadership totally wiped out, a wounded and just enraged Iran lashed out. And what came next was a wave of retaliatory strikes that basically set the entire Middle East on fire.
Iran's response, which they codenamed Operation True Promise 4, was swift and it was widespread. Missiles just rained down all over the region. Israel, the UAE, Bahrain, Qatar, Saudi Arabia, they all got hit. We're talking critical infrastructure like Dubai's International Airport and strategic targets like the US Navy's headquarters in Bahrain. The retaliation was massive and it was indiscriminate.
And in the chaos of all this, the civilian toll started to mount really fast. Shortly after those initial strikes, an airstrike hit an elementary school for girls in Minab. Iranian state media claimed at least 175 people were killed, and that most of them were children. Now, it is really important to note these numbers haven't been independently confirmed, and U.S. Central Command has opened an investigation.
As you can imagine, the attack immediately sparked this furious debate all around the world. Was this a preemptive strike that was born out of necessity, or was this an illegal war of choice?
So you basically have two camps. On one side, you've got the war of necessity argument, which was championed by President Trump. He claimed the strike was needed to eliminate an imminent threat to the American people. Then on the other side, you have the war of choice argument. Critics are pointing out that Iran was years away from a nuke and its missiles couldn't even reach the U.S., which suggests the attack was an illegal preventative war against an already weakened enemy.
And the controversy doesn't stop there. The operation was launched without any approval from the U.S. Congress, which raises some pretty serious questions about whether it violated the U.S. Constitution. On top of that, under international law, a preventative war of choice is widely considered illegal, which just adds another layer to this whole debate.
So, in the days since the strike, the whole region has just spiraled deeper and deeper into chaos, with global consequences that are honestly still unfolding as we speak.
The immediate aftershocks are just shaking the entire globe. Inside Iran, the strike created a massive power vacuum, and there's no clear successor. Globally, oil prices have surged, threatening a new energy crisis. And in cities all around the world, protests have erupted, both against the Iranian regime and against American military action.
But the most immediate and, frankly, tragic consequence is the human cost. If you combine reports from various sources, over 580 people have been killed across Iran, Israel, the UAE, and other nations. And as these sources note, these early numbers tragically don't differentiate between military and civilian casualties.
Which leaves us with this one huge critical question. The strike achieved its tactical goal, right? Iran's leadership is gone, but in doing so, has it actually eliminated a threat? Or has it just lit the fuse on a much larger, more devastating regional war? That is the unanswered question.